you my website, my phone number, my email, and my class schedule, because the studio is open. I'm calling it phase 1. I don't know how long I'll stay in phase 1, but limited classes, limited class sizes, but I'm still Zooming every single class. So, because I have a lot of population that's not ready to come back into the studio. So if you're interested in that, if you need some yoga in your life, I would love, love, love to have you join me. I've been teaching yoga. It always kind of freaks me out that I've been teaching yoga almost 20 years, mostly in Gainesville, only in Gainesville. And I've had this space 2 or 3 years now. I used to teach all over. I used to go to all different kinds of places. Normally I ask, what does everybody need? What do you want? I don't need you to unmute yourself, because I'm going to take a wild guess that you either want neck and shoulders or hips and low back. That's been, I mean, I put good money on the fact that that's what's happening with most people, because that's what I'm seeing in my clients and in my students. We're holding our tension either in neck and shoulders or hips and low back. We're doing a lot of sitting. So we can, did somebody just put a chat in there, Nicole?
Anna Deeb, faculty, says, you've got it.
Good. All right, so that's what we'll look at. We'll do neck and shoulders, and we'll do hips and low back. The thing that I want to stress, and I will say this more than just this time, I cannot see you, and I cannot see your bodies. And when I teach, that's a really huge part of how I teach. I can watch to make sure you're staying safe. I can watch to make sure your alignment is exactly right to avoid injury. And I don't have the benefit of that here, which is not a bad thing, because what that does is it puts the responsibility on you, which is where it ought to be in the first place. For you to listen to your own physical body and to your own intuition, and only do what is appropriate and what is right in your practice right now, which might mean that you totally don't do a complete part of the practice. And that's absolutely okay. It's not just okay, it's really what you have to do in order to keep your body safe. So let's begin. Lying down on your back. And the other thing that is different for me as a teacher now is I never used to do yoga with my classes because I was so busy watching you and keeping you safe and making sure that you were understanding my alignment cues. Because I don't have that, and because that was what kept me kind of on track with rights and lefts, I now practice with you. So you should be able to look up here at any point and go, okay, what is she doing? Let me make sure that I'm doing the right thing as well. And let me emphasize that right thing is a lie. So as long as your body doesn't hurt, you're doing the right thing. So let's start on your back. Your legs can be long down your mat. If that's uncomfortable almost immediately for your hips or your low back, go ahead and bend your knees. Take a moment to get comfortable. Eyes can be closed. That helps to kind of tune out all of the distractions around you. But one thing we're going to do is actually take a moment to welcome and invite in the distractions around you. So anything that you can pick up with your senses, sense of touch or taste or smell or sight, what are you hearing around you? What is in your space and in my space? If we take a moment and actually pay attention to the distractions around us, they become less distracting. They become less of an intrusion because we've given the brain an opportunity to kind of understand them. So take another couple of breaths. Notice the way that your body meets the floor in all of its various ways. Notice the way that the body doesn't meet the floor in all of its various ways. And then we'll switch and change our awareness to our breath. So we'll notice the breath without changing or manipulating the breath in any way. We just want to notice the gentle rise and fall of the belly. Maybe you're noticing the difference in temperature of your breath as it enters the body and exits the body. Maybe in these first few moments of stillness and quiet, you are becoming aware of places in your body that are tired or achy or tense. Send a message to your body that you are here for it. You are here to help unwind the tension of the day or the week or the months. You are here to listen and adjust whatever you need to adjust to make everything feel good. That's something about tonight's class that I want to touch on. It is okay for your yoga practice to just simply feel good. It's okay for your yoga practice to be hard work. It is not okay for your yoga practice to hurt you. So let's, everyone, if you haven't already straightened your legs, go ahead and straighten your legs down towards the bottom edge of the mat. Straighten the arms overhead. Let's wiggle the fingers and the toes. Let's roll the wrists and the ankles. And then we'll walk the feet over to the bottom right corner of your mat, and we'll stack the left ankle on top of the right ankle. We'll move the arms over to the top right corner, and with the right hand, grasp the left forearm and give a little tug. Tonight's class will be a little more on the gentle side, simply because I don't know very many of you, so I don't really know where our level of yoga understanding lies. And again, as I said, I can't see you, so I don't know how we're doing over there. Let's come back to center. We'll take the feet to the bottom left-hand corner, right ankle stacking on top of the left. Take the arms overhead to the left corner and let your left hand grasp the right forearm and give a little tug. Breathe really gentle breaths, really gentle stretch into your side body. And back to center. Let's bend the knees, arms wherever they're most comfortable, feet line up with your sitting bones, and we want to see if we can stack or align heels and sitting bones and knees. So we don't want the knees to fall out and we don't want the knees to fall in. So we've got nice, firm, hips in line with knees, knees in line with ankles. And all you're gonna do here is tuck your tailbone. We're not lifting anything off the floor yet. We're just dropping the low back towards the floor as you tuck your pelvis. And then tilt your pelvis and lift the low back, not the hips, just the low back off the floor. So it's a gentle rocking of your pelvis or tucking and tilting. Think of it sort of as a lying down cat-cow with the lower back. This posture and the posture that will follow this one, these are your go-to poses for tight lower back, for achy lower backs. And if you haven't already in your lifetime experienced an achy lower back, I want to say congratulations. But I also want to say, give it time, because something like 90% of Americans will experience lower back pain in their lifetime. So let's take a few more rounds of tucking and tilting. Something to remember about this is it's not about how deep the tuck or the tilt is. It is about how slow and smooth the movement is. So it's just gentle tuck as you exhale and gentle tilt as you inhale. Let's do two more. Tucking and tilting. And then come back to neutral spine. Bring your hands to the front of your hips. And this is like a sassiness in your hips. So you're gonna pull your right hip towards your right shoulder and then your left hip towards your left shoulder. And you're just gonna move the hips from side to side. Nothing is coming off of the mat. It is not about how far, how deep the posture moves, how close you can get your right hip to your right shoulder. It's more about how slow and how smooth are the movements. And then neutral spine after another repetition or two. And then let's step the feet as wide as your mat, arms out into a T. And we're just going to let the knees gently fall to the right and gently fall to the left. And we're just going to go back and forth, getting some movement in the hips. And the next time your knees fall to the right, stay there. Take your left arm overhead on the floor behind you. To go a little deeper, only if it's appropriate for your body, you could add the weight of your right foot on the outside of the left knee. If your left knee complains, it is not appropriate for your body, and you should slip that foot back down to the floor. Let's take 3 or 4 breaths here. And when you reach your last exhale, keep that right ankle where it is. Add it if it wasn't there already. Bring the legs back up towards the ceiling. And with your left ankle still on your right knee, hug your legs into the chest for the number 4 stretch. This is a reclining, gentle pigeon pose. Your right foot should stay flexed. That's going to protect your right knee and send the stretch into your right hip. You might hold on to the back of your left thigh. You might instead hold on to the back of your left calf, or last choice, bending your left knee and holding on to the top of your left shin. That's going to take the posture just a little bit more concentrated. I don't want to say deeper, but it's just going to dial in the intent of the pose. Some people really enjoy a little rock from side to side here. Some people really enjoy the focused pulling in, releasing in the right hip. Wherever you are in your practice, whatever feels right to you, take about 3 more breaths. And when you finish your last exhale, let's take the feet back to the floor. Windshield wiper, again, back and forth. And then we'll pause to the left with the right arm resting overhead on the floor behind you. Weight of the left foot on the outside of the right knee. And we're just going to rest here, 3 or 4 breaths. And back up towards the ceiling. If your left ankle wasn't already on your right knee, go ahead and add it now. And hug your legs into your chest. Hold on to the back of the thigh, the back of the calf, or the top of the shin. Remember, the left foot should stay flexed. We're just going to rock gently from side to side, or maybe focus on pulling the knee in ever so slightly. And let's take 3 or 4 breaths here. And at the end of your last exhale, let's bring the feet back to the floor. We're going to do a little bit of core work. So core work is not just abdominal work. It is glute work, quadricep work, and abdominal work. We're going to start with bridge pose. So again, we want to come back to that place where our feet are lined up with our hips, our sitting bones, and our heels are lined up with our knees. We're going to inhale and gently lift the hips off the floor. Exhale and slowly lower the hips down. So it's an inhale to lift and an exhale to lower. If you wanted to add a portion of moving meditation to this pose, you would float the arms up and overhead on the inhale, float the arms back down to the floor on the exhale. Inhale, float up. Exhale, gently release down. Inhaling, lifting. Exhaling, lowering. You can come back to the tucking and the tilting or the shimmying. You can stay with flowing bridge, or you can lift into bridge pose and stay here. 3 different layers or 3 different levels of intensity. We're going to be wherever you chose to be for 5 breaths. If you are lifted into bridge pose, be mindful that the knees are staying lined up with the sitting bones and with the heels. The knees aren't flying open and they aren't pushing together. When you finish your last exhale, your 5th exhale, lower the hips all the way down to the floor if they aren't already there. And then hug your knees into your chest for a counter pose. You might rock around. A lot of the yoga that I teach is really just kind of rolling around on the floor until something feels right. Let's take the legs straight up towards the ceiling. We're going to glue the legs together, so as if you could zipper your legs from your groin to your heels, and then turn your toes apart like you've got Mary Poppins' feet. Heels connected. Hands can be underneath your head, and your head can be lifted off of the floor, but it doesn't have to be. You could also alternately bring the arms along beside you, or if your lower back is really cranky, tuck your hands underneath the bottom edges of your hips, and that's where I'm going to be tonight. So legs are glued together. We got 1 leg, not 2. Zip your navel center in and up. Begin to bring the legs down in the direction of the floor and then back up towards the ceiling. You are completely in charge and in control of how much work this is for you. So the closer your legs get to the floor like so, the more work you'll feel. The slower you go, the more work you'll feel. You might decide that just 2 inches and back up is where you want to be. You might also want to lift your head. That's going to be more work as well. At any rate, it's completely and totally up to you, especially since no one else can see you. So find your level of intensity, your level of work. We don't want to be too gentle all the time. We'll get bored with our yoga practice, but we also don't want to work 110% every time because we might burn out at that point. So let's take maybe 5 or 6 more repetitions. And when you finish your last repetition, whenever that is, we'll hug the knees back into the chest. We'll roll around, rock from side to side, forward and back. Good. Let's take the arms out into a T before we come up to a seat. And drop your legs all the way to the floor to the right. Knees are stacked. Right hand on top of your left knee. Left arm out into a T across from your body. And you can turn your gaze to look at your left fingertips if you'd like. Try to let this be really easy and gentle. It's a passive reclining twist. Look for an effortless kind of effort. And let's take 3 more breaths. Good. When you finish your last exhale, come back to center. Take a moment here at center to let the spine come to a more neutral place. And then take the arms out. Drop the legs to the left. Add the weight of the left hand on the top knee and let the right arm come out into a T. Maybe your gaze turns over your fingertips. And take 3 or 4 breaths here. And then we'll come back up to center. Take a moment, again, allowing the spine to come into a more neutral space. And then we'll come up to a seat. So take the time in your own space to make sure that this seat is comfortable. You might sit on a blanket, You might not. Totally up to you. Good. So we're going to come into some neck and shoulder work. So let's bring our fingertips to our shoulders and begin to circle the elbows around in a really big, slow circle. And then be sure to change directions. Good. Then we'll let the hands come back to the knees. Let's draw the shoulder blades down the back. Zip the navel center in and up just a little bit. Lift the heart up just a little bit, and the crown of the head towards the ceiling. We're going to keep the chin parallel to the floor. You're just going to take some really slow, lazy no's, like you're turning your head, you're shaking your head no, back and forth. And then we'll transition to a yes. Look up, but don't drop your head down. Don't drop your head back. We're just going to look up gently and then drop the chin towards the chest. These two movements are mostly just to kind of highlight any place in your neck that feels tight or cranky. And then we'll take right ear in the direction of the right shoulder and left ear in the direction of the left shoulder, back and forth. And then let's pause with the right ear resting above the right shoulder. We're going to turn your gaze to look at the front of the right shoulder and bring your chin just a little closer to your chest. Extend and lengthen the left arm beside you, but then drift it back, like you're reaching in that back seat for something. And then add the weight of your hand on the side of the head. We never pull or force the neck here. We just add the weight of the hand to kind of encourage a softening or a letting go. We'll take 3 breaths here. And at the end of your last exhale, everything lifts back up. We'll take another turn, yes and no. Right ear towards right shoulder, left ear towards left shoulder, and then we'll pause with the left ear towards the left shoulder. Turn your gaze like you're trying to see the front of your left shoulder and bring the chin down just a touch. Extend and lengthen the right arm beside you, and then drift the right arm behind you. Gently add the weight of the hand on the side of the head. Three breaths here. And all the way back up. Let's turn the head again from side to side. Let's roll the shoulders again from side to side. And then we're going to actually revisit part of this and add some massage. So one of the things I know we're all missing is our body work, massage, chiropractor, acupuncture. So this isn't going to replace that by any means, but it's a little better than nothing. So we're going to take right ear in the direction of the right shoulder again. Careful not to let the right shoulder drift up. We want it to stay down. We're going to use your right hand on the side of your neck, on the left side of your neck. And you're just going to squeeze and release the upper trapezius, which is this big, tight muscle at the top of your shoulder. You're just going to squeeze and release there a couple of times. The squeeze and release, I don't know, I hope you can see my hand. It's like a pinching action. It's not rocket science, right? You're just squeezing and releasing. If you've got places in your neck and shoulder that you already know you hold tension in, I don't have to tell you where to take your massage. You could also take this squeeze and release down the back of the arm, down the front of the arm, all the way to the hand. And then even each individual finger. So this squeezing and releasing action actually does something to the nervous system, kind of settles the nervous system down. It turns down the volume of the static in your nervous system. And also it helps to increase fluid exchange, increase healthy blood flow, and it can relax us. Good, let's come back up to center. Take a breath here, and then take the left ear towards the left shoulder. And with the left hand on the right side of the neck or the upper trapezius, wherever it feels right to, just gonna squeeze and release and squeeze and release. Look for tension or tightness. You can even come into the jaw. Lots of tension being held in our jaws these days. You can move down the arm, all the way to the hand and each individual fingertip. And we'll come back up to center. So let's go ahead and come into tabletop for cat and cow. So when you come into tabletop, if you have a blanket or a towel available to you to protect your knees, I recommend using it. If you don't, you can just take your mat and fold it over like so, kind of like a little accordion, and that'll give you some extra mat layer for your knees. Spread the fingertips very, very wide and let your wrists fall right underneath your elbows and right underneath your shoulders. Knees are going to stay right underneath your hips. Let's drop the belly and inhale for cow pose. Arch the spine and exhale for cat pose. Inhale slowly for cow. Exhale slowly for cat. Several more rounds. Inhale. See if you can move so slowly that you can actually witness each vertebrae when it transitions from cat to cow. And then let's come back into neutral spine. We're going to step the left foot back, ball of the foot on the floor. There's a common misalignment where we kind of spiral up towards the ceiling. I want you to focus on keeping your left hip in line with your right hip and facing the floor the same. You're going to press into your hands so that you're pressing that left heel back. So that I'll show you that again. Here I am, my leg is just kind of back there, but then I'm going to actively press back so that my left heel is reaching for the wall behind me. One more breath here. Keep your gaze in between your hands so your neck stays neutral. Let's rock back up into your hands. Press the floor away, and that's going to make your shoulder blades spread apart. Lift your left leg up. Press the heel away again. Turn your toes and your left hip and your left knee to face the floor. You can stay here, or you can lift your right arm forward for spinal balance. Navel center draws in and up. The floor is pressing away. You're pressing away with the left hand and the right knee. Let's take 3 more breaths here. You can modify by bringing down the leg or the hands or both. And when you are complete and content, which is yoga teacher code for done, come back into tabletop and let's take a couple of rounds of cat and cow. I'm not sure if it's good news or bad news, but I can't tell if you're laughing at my jokes, so I'm just going to assume that you are. Let's step the right foot back. You're going to press into the hands so that the heel is pressing away. Hold and breathe here for 2 or 3 more breaths. And then you'll rock back into your hands. Navel center zips in and up. Shoulder blades press apart, and we're going to lift the right leg up. Press the heel away, toes, knees, and hip face the floor, and then float the right arm forward. Hold here for 3 or 4 breaths. And then we'll come back into tabletop. A couple of rounds of cat and cow. And then let's walk the hands a hand's length in front of the shoulders. Turn the toes under and lift up and back for downward facing dog. If downward facing dog is not a part of your practice today, you can stay in tabletop or you can drop into child's pose. If you are in downward facing dog, check that you're not holding tension in your neck and shoulders. And then go ahead and bend your right knee so you can drop your left heel closer to the floor and hold for 2 breaths. and then switch sides. So you're now pressing the right heel towards the floor, and you're gonna hold there for 2 or 3 breaths. And then come back into downward facing dog. Let's inhale into plank pose, which looks like the top of a push-up. The knees can come to the floor for more ease if you should want that, or they can stay lifted. Totally up to you. We're here for 3 breaths. And at the end of your last exhale, whenever it comes, we will come into child's pose briefly. Arms stretched out in front of you. You're going to walk your hands over to the left side of your mat and stack your right hand on top of your left. One more breath. And we'll move back through center and to the other side. And we'll stack the left hand on top of the right. 2 or 3 breaths. And back to center. Let's make your way back into tabletop, and then step your right foot in between your hands, slightly in front of your fingertips. From here, we're gonna inhale and lunge a little bit deeper. Exhale and straighten the front leg. Inhale and lunge, and when you lunge, make sure your knee isn't going past the ankle. And when you straighten, keep your toes planted on the floor. So let's take that a few more times. Inhale and lunge. Exhale and straighten. Inhale and lunge. Exhale and straighten. 2 more times. And then when you come into your lunge next, pause here. You can keep your fingertips on the floor. You can let go of the floor and bring your hands to your knee, your heart, or overhead. Wherever you are, zip the navel center in and up, lift the heart, and lift the crown of the head. Take 3 breaths here. Making sure the knee doesn't go past the ankle, but you are allowed to go a little deeper. And when you are, again, complete and content, bring the hands back down to the floor. Now you have a choice. We want to experience a neutral pose here before the second side. So you can come to child's pose, tabletop, or downward facing dog. And we'll stay in that pose about 3 breaths. When you reach your last exhale, we're coming back into tabletop, and we're going to step the left foot forward, slightly in front of your fingers. And you're going to inhale to lunge, exhale to straighten. You're going to move back and forth slowly and easily, a couple more times. And when it feels like that's balanced, come into your lunge and stay there. You can keep your fingertips on the floor or bring them up to your knee or to your heart or overhead. Zip the navel center in and up. Lift the heart, lift the crown of the head. Lunge a little deeper so long as this knee-ankle relationship stays the same. About 2 more breaths. And when you are balanced and symmetrical and complete and content and done, come back into tabletop. Let's take a couple of rounds of cat and cow. And then we'll come once again into downward facing dog. If that's not a part of your practice, that's okay. We're coming into a forward fold. So wherever and however you need to get there, come into a forward fold at the top edge of your mat. It doesn't matter if you touch the floor. What I'd really like to see is a little bit of a bend in your knees so that your lower ribs and your lower belly are actually making contact with your thighs.
That way you can really let go of the upper body and feel the whole back body stretch. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And then we'll inhale for a half lift and pause. Keep your spine nice and straight like you're the number 7. And then gently reverse swan dive all the way up to the top. Hands around to heart center. Good, so let's step up to the top edge of your mat. If you're not already there, you're gonna step back with your left foot. If you have a blanket in the middle of your mat, you might move it. You're gonna step back with the left foot. We're gonna set up for warrior 2 pose. So what we wanna focus on, the distance between the feet is a little less important to me. The farther apart, the harder the pose will be, the closer together, the easier the pose will be. Your back toes should be turned in slightly, and your hip, your knee, and your toes should be roughly in the same line. The front heel should dissect the back arch, and this front knee is gonna bend right on top of the ankle. Center your torso right on top of your hips, and extend and lengthen your arms. This is a variation for cranky neck and shoulders. Elbow is bent below the shoulder, and you're looking at the palm of the hand. Back arm is parallel to your back thigh. So we're either here with the arms or here with the arms. Warrior 2. Strength, fierceness, loyalty, the ability to survive and thrive through challenges. The deeper you bend that front knee, the more work you'll feel, but listen to your body, please. So warrior strength is useful and helpful, keeps us alive, but it's not the end-all be-all. Turn your front palm up to face the ceiling, bring your back hand to touch your back thigh, and reach overhead gently for peaceful warrior. Peaceful warrior is about vulnerability as a superpower. It is about finding a gentleness, still about loyalty. It's about finding the way to resolve conflicts with peace, a gentle strength. Let's take 1 more breath. And then return back to warrior 2. Let's drop both arms. Let's turn both sets of toes to face the same long edge of the mat. We're gonna take a forward fold between the 2 sides. Lift and lengthen, inhale. Legs are gonna stay wide. Forward fold. Forward folds are about letting go and releasing all of the things that we wish we could control, but we can't. And if you don't have anything that you wish you could control, but you can't, I've got like 200. I'll give you one of mine. So bring to your awareness, bring to your consciousness something that you're gripping or holding to, that you're clinging to. And I'm not gonna ask you to totally let it go, but I want you to entertain the thought, what might it feel like if I just softened my grip? If I just let go of my clinging for a breath? If I recognize that I cannot control everything around me? And if the answer is that's scary, that's valid. One last breath here. And then we'll begin to walk the feet together, heels together, toes together, heels together. We're gonna inhale for a half lift, but then we're gonna forward fold again. And then inhale, half lift all the way up to the top. Hands all the way overhead, and then back around to heart center. Good, take a breath here. And then step back up to the top edge of your mat. We're gonna step back with the right foot now. Remember, back hip, back knee, and back toes are facing roughly in the same direction. Back toes are a little bit more in than they are out. Bend your front knee, right on top of your ankle. Your front heel dissects your back arch. And we're going to extend and lengthen, dropping the shoulder blades down the back. Here's your variation if your neck and shoulders are cranky. And remember that just because we're practicing a pose that I told you is about strength and fierceness and loyalty and courage, that is not to suggest that these poses invent or inject those qualities into you. It's that this pose reminds you that you already have that strength. That you have a perfect track record for showing back up. You've survived all of your challenges thus far. Pretty good track record. Let's turn the front palm up towards the ceiling, back hand touches the back thigh. Peaceful warrior, bending the front knee. Also, same idea. It's not that you don't have that superpower of vulnerability. It's that this pose is reminding you. It's not inventing it for you, it's reminding you where you put it. Let's take another breath or two. Maybe bending that front knee a little bit more. And back to warrior two briefly. Drop the arms, step back up to the top edge of the mat. Take a breath here. We're going to come into tree pose next. So bring your hands together at heart center, drop the shoulder blades down the back, lift up through the crown of the head, navel center engages. Bring your gaze towards something in front of you, something on the wall in front of you, or the floor in front of you. It's not going to move. Let your gaze train on that spot. That's your drishti point. Drishti means inward and outward focus. And then shift your weight to your left foot. We're going to start in baby tree. So the left leg is going to continue to lengthen. Feel the left side of your abdominals engage. Arms are engaged. Right toes are going to stay on the floor, or you're going to bring your foot to your calf, or you're going to reach down and bring your foot to your inner thigh. As long as your left foot does not land on your right knee, it can go anywhere it wants to. Keep lifting and lengthening. If you want to take your arms overhead, you can, or out to the side, that's fine too. Let's take 3 more breaths. And then slowly bring your hands to heart center and step back, feet together, hands at heart center. Take a moment here. Lift your eyes again, find that drishti point, maybe it's a different one this time. Shift your weight to your left foot, right toes on the floor. This bent knee, we don't want to artificially open it. We want to just open it in line with the hip. Lengthen out of your left hip, maybe change the position of your foot, maybe change the position of your arms. Navel center is engaging. But soften your throat, your collarbones. Bring a tiny little smile to your lips. And hold here for 3 or 4 more breaths. And then back to standing. Good. So we're going to come back down onto our backs. We're going to hug the knees back into the chest. We're going to do a little more work on the hips right before Shavasana. So let's take your right knee into your chest and your left leg straight up towards the ceiling. And go ahead and give your left ankle a roll and a point and a flex. I'm going to keep that right knee tucked in really firmly to your belly. Flex your left foot and begin to drop it in the direction of the floor and back up towards the ceiling. It's straight down towards the bottom edge of the mat. You're not going all the way to the mat. You're going about 6 inches from the floor. Let's do 2 more repetitions. And then pause at the top. We're going to keep this left leg straight. Keep the left foot flexed. All you're going to do is externally rotate the toes. So your left toes are now pointing to the left. And we're still gonna follow that midline of the body. You're gonna drop the left leg down and bring the left leg back up. So it's slowly down and slowly up. It is really normal and common that just the turning of the toes out makes this posture harder. That's because most of us have weaker adductors in our hips. So let's take 2 more repetitions. The leg is going straight down and straight up, but the toes are turned out. The next time the leg comes towards the floor, let it come to the floor and totally relax. We're now going to guide the right knee over the body into a twist. Let your right arm come out onto the floor in a T, and if you want to, you can kind of make a lazy snow angel motion with that right arm. It might highlight some places the body wants to stretch or release. The more you pull your right knee towards your left shoulder, the more that stretch is going to end up in your hips and in your glutes. Let's take 1 more breath here. And then back to center. Take a second with both your legs long and both your arms long. Let your nervous system receive the information that you just presented it with. And then hug the left knee in and take the right leg up towards the ceiling. Go ahead and point and flex and roll the ankle. Find a nice straight right leg, a flexed right foot, and the left knee is deeply into your chest. We're going to go straight down towards the bottom edge of the mat and straight back up. Slow down and slow up. Let's take maybe 2 more. And then everything about this right leg stays the same. It stays straight, it stays at the midline of the body, and the foot stays flexed. The only thing that's different is you're gonna externally rotate so your toes turn out to the right. And the external rotation actually is gonna come from your hip. You're gonna take that leg slowly down and slowly up. If you find this to be more challenging, that's great information to have. It allows you to add more repetitions to help build up strength in your adductors. Adductors are a portion of the hip that helps to bring the legs together. So they adduct, they bring the thighs and the legs together. Let's take a couple more repetitions. And then let that right leg rest on the floor. Guide the left knee over the body. Let your right hand stay on your left knee. Let your left arm come out beside you. Maybe explore some snow angel movements or not. Up to you. Couple of breaths. And back to center. So a word about Shavasana. If you're perfectly happy having your legs extended and your arms on the floor just like this, that's a great choice. If your lower back is still not exactly happy, I would invite you to bring your knees bent, your feet wider than your hips, and then let your knees fall together like they're a little teepee. The position of your feet is kind of personal. You want to find the right distance that allows the knees to fall together and kind of hold themselves up. Wherever you want your arms to be, wherever they are most comfortable. And if you've got some other idea for Shavasana, don't be shy. We're gonna be here about 5 or 6 minutes or so. So just as we begin class, by bringing our awareness to our surroundings, that's where we want to end class. So check in and see what you notice about your senses, your sense of smell. What are you hearing around you? And then transition your awareness to your breath. Gentle rise and fall of the belly. Notice whatever you notice. Paying gently attention to how the mind might wander. Letting go gives us freedom. And freedom is the only condition for happiness. If in our heart we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, or possessions, we cannot be truly free. Taking all of the time that you need, make your way gently to your side, and then to a seat. And let's keep your eyes closed for now. Gently bring your hands together at heart center, bowing your head gently in deep gratitude for your body, for your breath, and for your space. Acknowledging the work that you've done today and taking this quiet, peaceful, centered state with you into the rest of your evening and to share with others. We'll end class with the chanting of one single Om. If you'd like to join me, it's collective inhale. Om. Thank you all very, very, very much for being here. Namaste. I'd love it if you want information on the studio. Like Danielle was saying, I'll be really honest with you. I don't know how much longer we're going to be around, but if you want to log on to online classes, I allow 5 or 6 people in studio for my classes, and you can find those classes on the website. Text and email are great if you want more information on how to do that. And I'd love to have you. So.
And Emily, I'll to everybody, I'll send out an email to all the participants with the link to the recording probably tomorrow, and I'll also include your website information so that you all can easily access that information that that Emily mentioned. So does anybody have any questions or comments? You're welcome to unmute yourself before we head out. And just from us at the Brenau Galleries, thank you, Emily, with Finder Center Yoga, and thank you all of you for joining us.
Thank you.
I don't know about you, but my
Thank you. I feel much better.
yeah, all those knots in my shoulder, I could hear them creaking. So
Yep, it happens. We
Thanks
have
so
them.
much. Thank you.
Being human. Oop, I have my little spotlight on. It's not good. There we go. Good. Well, you guys take care. Stay safe. And thanks for having me.
thank you very much, Emily.
Before I log off. Nope. All right. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.